Welcome to John's Tarot. Welcome. I hope you're all having a good day and you're looking forward to my podcast as I'm looking forward to doing a podcast for you. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about Roland Hazard and Carl Jung and Carl Jung's, how can I say this? Carl Jung's contribution to the 12 steps. And because it's important, and this is again a place where I encountered Carl Jung on my journey, because he added quite a bit to it. So there was this guy named Roland Hazard. This must have been around 1933, like that. And Roland was a rich individual. He had money to spend, and he had a drinking problem, and he couldn't stop drinking. And he went to see the eminent psychologist Carl Jung. Carl Jung took a look at him, and he worked with him, and he did what he did in terms of psychology, and worked with him for a couple of months. And Roland Hazard felt like, okay, I got it. I've got it. I've got this thing now. I'm cool, baby. I'm really cool.
Oh, far out, man.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, so he went back home. And he went back home, and it wasn't very long before he started drinking again. Ergo, what they talk about in the 12-step organizations is self-knowledge avails us nothing. And he went back then to Carl Jung to ask him, what happened? What happened to me? Why? I don't understand. I thought I understood my internal switches and everything to such a degree that I would never drink again, that we had this problem resolved. And Carl Jung told him, "Oh, Roland," he says, "in a person such as yourself, I've tried to use a spiritual approach, the spiritual approach, but in an alcoholic such as yourself, I've never seen an independent recovery happen at all." And it was something to that extent. I don't remember the exact terms. You can correct me. Send me an email or post it up on John's Tarot and send me a correction exactly what Carl Jung told Roland. But and Roland just felt that was it. He felt the doors of hell had clanged shut on him, and that there was no hope. And really, when you look back at the history of alcoholism, I was just watching this thing on movie stars of the past, and how they, so there was so much alcoholism in that industry, and how these people were, they had alcoholism, and there was no answer for them. People just don't resolve this independently. In the past, man, they just locked you outside the city walls to die because there was no cure for this thing. And what Carl Jung, though, brought into this was a concept, and Roland went back. Carl Jung brought into this a concept of the need for a spiritual awakening, a spiritual reorganization of the inner self that could not be accomplished by the individual alone. And that's what he brought back. Roland came back, and he gave that to Bill W., a part of it. I think that came through. I'm not sure the history of that. You can correct me on that too. But that information came back to Bill W., and then that was put into the steps of the 12-step organization, of the 12-step process. The spiritual awakening, the spiritual reorganization, and that was Carl Jung's contribution to the 12 steps. And Carl Jung wasn't big on God, but he understood that was a very important thing. And in my own experience, how I understand spirituality is it's not so much a religion. It's not so much your concept of a higher power. It's more like how you react to your environment. And so when you have a spiritual awakening or a spiritual reorganization, this might be a palace or a prison, depending on your spiritual condition. This might be torture, or it might be an opportunity for change. and that is a representative of your spiritual health and your and how you are spiritually, and that is what Carl Jung brought into the 12 steps that are currently being practiced throughout the world and have had tremendous success. I know there are other programs out there that rational recovery, and there's a couple of other ones. No higher power required, no personal inventory required, no responsibility required. Well, it just doesn't work that way. I know in my life it required a complete psychological reorganization, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that in one of my future podcasts. So, in terms of a complete psychological reorganization, let's do a little tarot card reading. My ability to read tarot is a gift, an expression of divine love, and I'm here to share it with you in that same spirit. I'm coming up in June. We're coming up on June mighty quick, and it'll be like 37 years for me. So I don't know. I just had nothing. I had no better options than to do the complete psychological reorganization that is offered in the 12 steps. And when I did that, it wasn't. I did the steps. I did the things that were suggested, and then it's just I had a sponsor, a guy I could look to for advice, and who provided me a good example of how a sober man conducts himself. And I had meetings where I had other mature, sober men, because I had no idea how a sober man conducts himself throughout life. So I had some good examples to follow. Now I'm coming about 37 years later. I'm supposed to be a good example, and I am attempting to do that in my way. And I still am a member of a 12-step organization, and it's still an integral part of my life, though it's not my entire life. Just like podcast is not my entire life. So, in terms of what did Roland bring to what did Roland bring, not Roland, what did Carl Jung bring to the 12 steps as we know them today? I have to be very careful how I phrase that. What did Carl Jung contribute to the 12 steps? And I'm just going to do a quick tarot reading, and then we're going to move on. What did Carl Jung contribute? Well, I was interested what the tarot has to say. The tarot is not an absolute. Whenever I do tarot readings, it's not an absolute, infallible authority. It's been wrong. It's an opinion. Okay? Tarot is an opinion, and it can be a guide. And the way I use it is it's a reflective tool in order to look back in at yourself and say, where am I at in a process, and what is a suggestion of where I need to go. So I'm asking for an opinion. What did Carl Jung contribute? What was Carl Jung's contribution to the 12 steps? Cut the deck. See what we get. My first card was the Three of Wands. So Carl Jung's contribution to the 12 steps, he was one person making a contribution, and he understood that it was going to take many more people and much more work in order to add to his contribution to a much larger work. That much larger work is what we know today as 12-step organizations. But he was just one person, and he had the help of many other people in order to make this thing come into fruition as we know it today. And then the second card is the Two of Swords. In terms of his contributions, Carl Jung was a man of science on the one hand, and he had a sense of spirituality on the other. And he was gathering, what he brought into it was he brought into that realizing that when somebody comes into the program, somebody comes into one of these things, they're kind of blinded by their behavior, blinded by what they've been doing, blinded by what their families told them, blinded by what society has told them. And they are looking for answers. And they're at a crossroads when they come in, nobody comes into these organizations. Oh, my life was totally good. So I thought I would come into this organization and see what you people are doing. No, they're at a crossroads. You see the person with the blindfold with two swords, and they're gathering information. And when they come into one of these organizations, they're looking for answers on how to straighten out their life. They're not coming in there because their life is out functioning perfectly. And what Carl Jung added to that was a little bit of guidance, a little bit of instruction, one piece of the puzzle, but not the whole puzzle. That was put together by Bill and Bob, for sure. And then the final card, the magician. Oh, how does this happen? How does this happen? The cards come out and give me such a complete answer. His contribution, Carl Jung's contribution, was you see the magician, and that is somebody who has everything they need in order to produce change. And Carl Jung's contribution was one piece of that puzzle in order to meet the magician's need, to give the magician, and that's the magician is us as individuals, that when if we enter one of these 12-step organizations and take it seriously and really take this like this is something I need to learn, this is something I need to know, you will be given all the tools that you need in order to accomplish your goal. And that goal is the psychological reorganization. He has a cup, he has a sword, he has a pentacle, he has a wand, he has everything, and he has the infinity signal all over his head, and then he has the classic movement, one hand in the air, the other pointing on the ground, as above, so below, and that has to do with the ancient concept of initiation. And there is an initiatory process that happens in the 12 steps, but you will be given all the tools that you need in order to accomplish that goal, and the people to help guide you, and but you have to do the work. The magician is just somebody who wants to change from a fool to a magician to produce change, transformational change. And that is what Carl Jung had brought into the process. So for now, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up for today.
Goodbye, Professor Marvel, and thanks a lot!
Well, it was my pleasure. I often say that. So until next time, be careful, be cool, be kind, find faith, have courage, and I will talk to you all again on the next podcast, on the next video. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.